Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh Srivastava. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders, and business heads. Today, we are going to dive deep the DEI shift in US and how it is going to impact in India. Recently, the US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order for the federal employees and also for the contracting companies, those which are dealing with the federal organizations. And according to this order, the DIE practices are ended in USA. If you look at the title of this executive order, so that is the ending radical and wasteful government DI programs and preferencing. So the focus of this executive order is on restoring the merit-based opportunities and prohibiting race and gender conscious employment and contracting practices. After this order, many companies like Amazon, like Meta, like Google and Accenture, Deloitte, these companies have either ended their DI practices or they have reviewed their practices. We will try to discuss in detail. Joining us two very senior panelists. Let me welcome Ms. Abha Maryada Bhatt. She is a leadership author, speaker, and a thought innovator, and a renowned HR thought leader, Dr. Pradyumna Pandey is a motivational speaker and happiness coach. So my first question is to both of you. How do you see the shift uh, in DI practices in US, and is it going to be also impact in India?
If I ask me, Romesh, I don't see a direct impact. But yes, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, it is something which is, I always say that it's a mindset. And if my top leadership in India, they start looking D&I as something which is a Western concept, then definitely they are going to get an impact in that mindset. But in normal way, because India has recognized diversity as an opportunity to bring innovation, creativity at workplace. That is what I see as a leader, that what it brings. Being a manufacturing hub, it's important for us that we are more innovative at workplace, and we need diverse perspective, we need diverse people, diverse thought process at workplace. And that's the reason that it will not impact that much, but yes, it is being talked. There will some mindset will change, but definitely the movement which India has gathered now towards diversity and inclusion, it will not have an impact. One more reason I will here I will put, because it's a talent pool. When we talk about diversity in India, we mainly focus upon gender diversity or inclusion of people with special abilities. That is what at least I have worked in for 30 years. My focus was on those two. I have When we talk about the change in US policy, it is something against the special provision given for race. We don't talk about, we don't go beyond gender diversity. We don't talk about hiring from different states. Yes, some organizations are doing that, but main focus is on gender diversity. And for me as an organization, the women employees are a talent pool. When there will be a war for talent, when we are growing, when we are surpassing everyone in the world, at that time, if I am not ready to hire women employees, I will be left behind from my competition. And that's the reason I say that whatever the Trump government decides, it will have a very little impact. It will be talk. I think again I say that it's because it's a mindset. There may be ups and downs, but the direction is one. That diversity is must. It's not an option. It's necessity for us.
So this is nice and very beautiful and detailed analysis, Dr. Pradyumna. Abhaji, what is your take on this?
That the impact will be there will be some impact, and I'll take you to the history of DI. The roots in the social justice movements in 1950s and 60s in the US, and the offshoot of the World War II, where it was marked by a push into the civil and equal rights movement, from where the United Nations Charter of Human Rights came, the Declaration of Human Rights came. So now 193 countries are part of it, including India. So we are talking about social justice. We are talking about social progress. We are talking about better standards for people. And rightly, as Mr. Pradyumna said, that we are talking about gender diversity in the last 10 years, whatever DEI has happened, it has happened in the field of gender. We want women employees to come there and take on leadership positions. And that diverse perspective is to be brought onto the table in terms of seeing how we can improve the performance of the companies or the bottom lines of the companies to bring in the women employees. But the issue goes further up in terms of including a lot more other factors into this entire space. So when I'm saying that the faith in fundamental human rights, where United States, United Nations Charter of Human Rights, Universal Declaration, our constitutions are based on it. So when I mention that, I say there is a law in this country which is based on social justice. It is based on fundamental rights. And therefore, DEI for us becomes an extremely important part of our development. So US may be a developed country, but we are still a developing nation where social inclusion of all segments of society becomes very important for the progress of our country. And therefore, whether or not it will have an impact, it is because since this is a political move, it is going to be a leadership move. India, I do not think will stop its efforts as far as diversity is concerned or inclusion is concerned. Equity is a part which is, again, I would say equality, equity, interchangeable to some extent, and people keep fighting over it in courts. I'm also a lawyer. That's why I'm talking about that. We have people fighting every day over this. And women fighting, men fighting, segments fighting, LGBTQ fighting. Everybody is fighting. So since we are there, somewhere a genuine concern, it's a milestone for all of us to get a system in place where all our people are in a position to succeed. And DEI plays a very important part in that. So whether it will have a direct impact on us or no, we have our own policy, we have our own leadership, we have our own needs over here. So like Pradyumna said, that a direct impact will not be there. However, there is going to be a lot of, I think, noise around the MNCs that are existing in the country. They still have to follow the Indian law. So I'm looking forward to some interesting fights over here now. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said in the beginning, that after this executive order, many companies which are based in USA, either they have reassessed their DEI practices or they have pulled back. And after this executive order, and we have also done a little survey on LinkedIn, and we raised the question that Donald Trump has criticized DEI practices as discriminatory. Do you agree? So we have received 56% response in favor of Donald Trump, and they said yes, and 44% people they said no. What is your comment on this survey, Avaji?
See, he said this is discriminatory qua the fundamental rights where everybody is equal. Therefore, giving special privilege to somebody or some segment of people to say that, we have to bring them in, this is discriminatory towards those who are already, in that space. So to that, this is how they have the wordplay is working over there, whether or not it is discriminatory. This is and inclusion is not about it is about ending discrimination. So in a capitalistic country where we have a Donald Trump, the biggest capitalist of this world, talking as a president and saying, okay, listen, this is a cost to me. It is too much of a cost and is not giving me the return that I'm expecting in terms of bringing in all these people who are not performing enough. And why should I bring them in? Why should I spend my money on it? Why should Exchequer spend any money? And it's a wasted attempt in order to see we want results. So this is their mindset. This is the way they look at it. So when they call it discriminatory, it's a word that is being used. It's a legal word. Whether or not there is discrimination, is a different concept altogether. But saying that if some set of people are already doing very well, and we have now brought in a new set of people in the garb of diversity and inclusion, and because of that, it has become a discriminatory to people who are already existing. So I don't think it is discriminatory. It is a social policy issue, if I would say so. Diversity is a social policy issue which most countries are looking at, and look at the underdeveloped countries, they have no choice but to do that social justice to bring their people up. So in that sense, I think we are talking of two different countries where there's the most advanced country in the world. That country is talking about discrimination within its own framework. So it's a bit of a laughing matter for me. But again, I said there's wordplay included over there where we are very happily sort of working around that word. This thing, there are Accenture, Amazon, Google, etc. are only 4 or 5 companies in the country. They don't run India. So I think if they stop doing DI, it's fine. We'll do our own way.
Yeah, right. So, Dr. Pradyumna, you have also highlighted in the beginning that more focus is on gender diversity. What the percentage of employees are the women employees? What the percentage of women employees are there in workforce? So, it has been focused even in India as well. Don't you think this is a discriminatory? Because when we look at the equity and inclusion, don't you think this is the right way? The government has also taken a lot of initiative for the equity, like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, maternity benefits. So a lot of initiative are there. Providing the platform, this is one thing, and another inclusion, that is a definitely that should be there. Diversity, just focus on the numbers. Don't you think? What is your take on this, Dr. Pradyumna?
Romesh, I experimented in a way by saying that why not the entire engine assembly line in my previous organization, why not to be run by women employees? Even women employees questioned my decision that when we are talking about shoulder to shoulder working, why you are saying that we will have one assembly line being run by women employees? My point was, our entire mindset is driven by the society from where we come. It still doesn't accept that women employees are equal at workplace. That bias is still there, and therefore I always say that we are different from US. We still are fighting with that unconscious bias. I was at plant round and I asked the old employee that what he think about diversity. He said, "Sir, it is useless." And I asked him why it is useless. He said, "They will take our jobs." If that mindset he is carrying from the society, it comes from the society he belongs. So therefore, it is important for us to take those initiatives, talk about diversity more, give them special provisions. I am not saying that you dilute your criteria of hiring them, but at least create that infrastructure which is required for them to perform and excel at workplace. That investment is required from the organizations. And that is where we always talk about that numbers will be required, from where the focus will come. If you don't talk about numbers, it is necessary. We'll say, yes, we'll achieve that much percentage of diversity because we are not at that level where other countries are. When we move outside India, we need to compete those global even standards. So numbers is first thing which we definitely will give us a focus. When we started diversity at assembly line, my plant leader used to come and say that we have done 22 kaizens to see that women employees can work. I said whether these 22 kaizens were not important for men. It was equally important. Weightlifting is why it is a heavy weight. If you can make something which can ease out that work, do it for everyone. So this is about focus. Number is also about focus, and we need to talk about numbers. Why not? That brings a focus, that brings a pressure on us to create an infrastructure which is required to make sure that the entire thing, the way we want to move forward goes in a same direction. When you talk about numbers, when you talk about these creating facilities, it changes the mindset. I always think that mindset is more important. The leaders, those who are accepting women employees at workplace, the employees, those who are accepting women as a leader, that mindset we need to create, and that is only be created by focusing on everything, including numbers. Again, I will say.
So very beautifully we have answered this question. Abhaji, what is your take on this?
I'll have to say something here because I agree with because numbers are important, focus is important, and we've been talking about gender diversity for a very long time, getting women into leadership positions and getting women to work and being able to, the mindset problem over there is not so. I mean, we will bring in the equality, we can bring in the numbers, but the mindset there is not just about taking away the job, but about not trusting women's capabilities. We can give them all the facilities and everything. Do we really trust women capabilities as leaders? It is opening up. The field has opened up. We are seeing many women leaders come up. We are seeing, but the percentage is still very low in leadership positions. Otherwise, keeping this entire diversity angle in mind, Indian companies, there's now the government mandate is there. BRSR has come in, business responsibility to sustainability reporting hua. Maternity Benefit Act has come, POSH Act has come, Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace, SEBI directives to have women on boards. So it is definitely a good move towards making it a safer place for women to work. So when women don't feel safe, or women don't feel safe, and men don't feel they're capable enough. Now we are struggling between that dynamic, trying to understand as to what can we bring to the table to let these two dynamics actually not fight with each other, but allow it to, evolve on its own. Allow women to show their capabilities so that at least they can. A lot of last 10 years, a lot of money has been spent to train women and to bring women into the middle level employment or to even get into leadership positions. And look at these laws that I'm talking about. Prevention of sexual harassment has become one of the key compliance enactments, where the companies are now required by law to say that the women are safe in their organization. So unless and until there are safety issues, the safety is not just about physical safety; it's about psychological safety. It's about that unconscious bias that Pradyumna was just talking about, that we are fighting that in all places. So given that, I don't think that this entire DI discourse that has just begun due to the Donald Trump's that executive order, we have our own issues, and we are quite capable of handling those issues. I think we are Indian companies, I think, are likely that they will use it as an opportunity. It is an opportunity for us, to make our own DI system. We don't have to go by the Western concept. We don't have to go. We understand diversity in our space. हमारे जितने स्टेट है उतनी लोग हैं, उतनी भाषा है, उतनी ही हमारे यहाँ पे कंपनियां हैं, तो हमारे पास हमारे सॉल्यूशन हमारे अपने होने चाहिए. So this is where I believe that when it comes to gender diversity, which is has been our primary focus in the last, and that is where our $1 trillion economy is coming from. When all the 50% women are beginning to bring in that financial input into the economy, is where $1 trillion are going to come from. So we can't afford to miss it because of Donald.
Yeah, that's true. That may be political agenda. And, this was very fashionable in 2020, and these companies were promoting the DI practices. Now, if you look at India, so there are many companies like Accenture, like Deloitte, Meta, Google, Amazon. So these companies are having huge workforce here in India, and they're having their offices. Now, how do you see when they are not having any DI guidelines, when they are not having any mandate? So how they will champion this kind of the practices in India? And don't you think this is the real time to check when they don't have any guideline, when this is not mandatory from their head office, how they promote the inclusion in their organizations, how they promote the equity in their organizations, equality in their organizations? What is your take on this, Dr. Pradyumna Pandey?
Romesh, definitely the US companies in India, they will look for their policy decisions back to their headquarters. There is no doubt in it that influenced by them. But I firmly believe that these are well established organizations. They have their market specific strategies for sure. They will not do that with this one single way of dealing with these priorities is definitely not that. They will go market wise that what is important for them. And second, it's employee expectation which will be driving it in India. Millennials, you talk to them, they will definitely talk about. I don't know in your survey who has voted for you, but if you ask millennials, they will vote for a diverse and inclusive workplace. They will love that environment to work where they want to work. So that pressure of millennials, the next generation workforce, will force them to continue with their diversity practices, maybe in a bit not the way they were focused, a little bit less focused, I will say. Second, they will not withdraw it very fast. It's a reputation risk for them. See, it's a social media. The day it comes that they have taken a step back, it will definitely going to impact their reputation as employer in India. So my point is, yes, there will be impact. There will be some policy guidelines from because it's all about spending money, putting funds towards those initiatives. It may go down from their side, but their focus from diversity cannot move. They will lose a big talent pool if they do so. But I'm sure they are much wiser than us. They will not do so. That's it.
So true. DI practices, these are not just a fashion. This is not a fancy thing. This is a business need. There are a lot of surveys, and these surveys are indicating if you have the diverse workforce, then the profitability may be 30 to 40% high. If you have the female leaders, maybe the profitability is 25, 27% high. So this is not a fashion. This is a business need. Absolutely. Abhaji, how do you see currently in DEI domain how the practices are going on in India? How the India is promoting the DEI practices here?
I would look at it from a very, not just an academic perspective, but and we are counting numbers and percentages and everything. India is actually at the moment, would say India hosts approximately 1,700 global capability centers. They're called GCCs, which are serving very well in terms of this whole diversity movement is being run based on the guidelines and policies that are coming through them. So given that, you just talked about these companies, they are serving the customer in India. So whether it is a market strategy it may be a policy strategy to say, okay, we are not spending money on diversity and equity. But when you are serving the Indian customer or you have an Indian employee talent pool, how intelligent would it be to bring in this kind of policy, which is going to affect their market? When Pradyumna talk about reputation, I would talk about the entire output in terms of their performance in the country. So whenever we talk profitability, this is a very business strategic move. And diversity, when it leads to better performances, it leads to better profitability, it leads to better what you call decisions. It leads to better product development. It leads to better customer outreach. It leads to better, what do you call acceptance in terms of saying that, okay, we are doing well in terms of an well-rounded perspective. So that is how diversity works. It's not one point program. It is not a thing to say that we have because we are doing this. So there's a multiple layered exercise in terms of the output that we are trying to achieve through this entire exercise. So in India, I believe that diversity initiatives, I've just mentioned some laws to you. These are also diversity inclusion initiatives to make workplaces safer for genders, to make workplaces more aligned in terms of the big picture, in terms of either social justice or to be creating profitability in the companies or to be able to create better product development or to be able to see more people who are in the background, marginalized segments are being brought forward. Why would they do that? I mean, nobody is wasting time and spending money on this for without any reason. So we should go towards the reasons. And India, I think, has in the last 5 to 7 years, we've seen some extensive activity around here, especially in the corporate sector. Laws in terms of compliances have been put in place that you don't have a choice. A company has to do. आपके पास choice ही नहीं है, आपको करना पड़ेगा. अब आप करेंगे तो आपको ढूंढना पड़ेगा, आपको टैलेंट भी ढूंढने पड़ेंगे, आपको महिलाएं capable women you'll have to find people who would be able to fit into that place. So there is effort over there, but the effort is really very well found. It's based on well-founded concepts in terms of getting everybody to succeed in their places, workplaces, or in terms. So this is a good thought, and I think India has been doing a pretty good job in the last 5 to 7 years. So when we are talking about these Amazons and Accentures, yes, there is a workforce over there, but we must not forget that they are serving the customer in India. If you're taking technology from here, going back to the US, you can do whatever you want. But when people like Amazon who are serving people over here, people like Google, where India plays a very important role in terms of the consumption of these companies. So the consumer will play a big role when it comes to these policies. And I think, again, I said, this is an evolving thing. Let us see how the leadership, reacts to something like this, because our initiatives are for our progress. All these policies can come in and out, but I think the leadership is very clear in terms of how India needs to go. So let us see where this goes. Within the company, you can stop your DI requirements, but if the policy is there that you have to pay maternity benefits or there has to be women on the board, you don't have a choice but to do it. So I think it's more like a very coercive, but it's not coercive. We have to put our foot down in some places. We can't be running our businesses based on other people's concepts of business.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're doing business in India and there are laws in India, basically like you can say the maternity benefit. So you have to abide the law in India. That's true. That's true. And Dr. Pradyumna, if we look at the another factor, so now if we look at the demography of workforce in India, so around five generations are working together, and out of this, around 90%, 95% the workforce is of Gen Zs and millennials. Their expectation is there should be the inclusive workplace. How do you see this kind of the expectations, this kind of the employee expectations can also sustain the DI practices?
Yes, I think when we talk about the next generation, in the present, the Gen Z, and all the present generation, I think they place a high value on diversity and inclusive workplace. Clearly seen. They talk about it. They enjoy working at a place which is more inclusive, where is more diversity. Not only this, Romesh, they will now, their expectation definitely will be, they will talk about equity in hiring and promotions for sure, that organization need to take care. They will talk about inclusive policies for LGBTQ plus employees, persons with disabilities, unrepresented communities even. So this is how they have started. You talk to those the next generation, they will talk the language which definitely will push the organizations to continue with their diversity and inclusion practices for sure. And not only that, your strong corporate social responsibility practices. That is what they look for. They before joining, they do those researches, and so your employer brand itself is something which is impacted whether you are going to roll back your DEI activities or you want to pursue it. So companies will be forced to continue with those, and it's not only it's a force to them. They can clearly see a benefit coming out of it. See, again, I will be talking about creativity, innovation at workplace. From where it will come? If we are not going to make the entire workforce a diverse workforce, we need diverse perspective very much. Being into manufacturing, it is more needed. At workplace, we need more innovations, more creativity, because it's all about, like for manufacturing, I say it's all about reducing the production cost. I have seen when we had diversity at 30% at workplace, we have measured the productivity, the quality. Everywhere we found that yet it's not only because it was because of women employees it has gone up, because the environment of being diverse environment was there, inclusive environment was there. The all employees, including the male employees, they are engaged because of that positivity in the environment. Your all parameters, production parameters, your goes up. It is a business benefit, and that's what I say that yes, this when we talk about Gen Z, they will force the organizations to continue on those initiatives. These are good initiatives, Romesh. I have seen benefits coming out of when we push diversity in. We can see agility in the environment. We can see more creativity in the environment. We can see that people are engaged. The engagement level goes up with the diversity at workplace.
Absolutely, that is true. Absolutely, that is true. And now, if I try to summarize and look at the takeaways of this discussion, so there won't be any major impact on the DI practices in India. I was also going through Josh Person's comment. He also said that DEI is not going anywhere. And apart from this, if you look at the HR point of view, so attrition is low, engagement is high. If that is, if you have good DI practices, if you have inclusive workplaces. So thank you so much, Dr. Pradyumna and Abhaji, for joining the conversation and sharing your wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Romesh. Thanks. It's
Thank you
always
very
good
much.
to be on this platform.